Hello friends, welcome to the channel. Let's get cracking with Leetcode problem number 14, longest common prefix. Let us look at the problem statement. The ask is for us to extract the longest common prefix amongst an array of strings. And if there is no common prefix, we should return an empty string. Let's look at the examples. In the first example, the strings array holds flower, flow, and flight. And the expected output is Fn, which is the common prefix in all these three. In the second example, you have an array of strings dog, race car, and car. There is no common prefix among these three, hence the output would be an empty string. Now, let's look at a couple of approaches. There are two approaches that we're going to look at. One is where we can compare, we can do a horizontal comparison. So let's start with in the first string as the prefix. That's, let's say, flower is the prefix. We would compare flower with the next element in the array, that's flow. If the prefix flower matches with the string, we continue. If not, we keep stripping the prefix from the right. So flower is not a prefix for flow, so we would strip off the R. We compare if FLOWE is a prefix for flow. It's not, so we strip off the next character, which is E, and then we have a match as flow is equal to flow. For the third string, now your prefix is flow and the third string is flight. So you would compare if flow is a prefix for flight. It's not. So we strip off the last element, the last character, which is W. Again, check if FLO is a prefix for flight. Again, it isn't. So we strip off the last character O. And FL happens to be part of flight. So that is the final common prefix, which would be returned. In terms of time complexity, the worst case scenario, there would be O of S, where S is the total number of characters in all the strings. And in the best case, it would be of minimum length into n, where minimum length is the length of the shortest string and n is the number of strings. And the space complexity is O of 1 because we're not really going to be creating any new strings. Let's dive into the implementation. If not strings, if strings is an empty array, it's simply going to return an empty string. Let's take the first element into a variable called prefix. For s in strings 1 to the last element, while not s dot starts with prefix is equal to prefix. And we're going to use slicing to strip off the last character. If not prefix, if your prefix eventually turns out to be an empty string, we return the empty string. Else, we would return that prefix. Let's run this thing. And that's all your test cases passed. Now, let's look at another approach, which is instead of using horizontal comparisons, we would use vertical comparisons. So we would look at, again, for the same array, flower, flow, and flight, you would first get the shortest string out of these. In this case, that is flow. And then we start looking at all of the elements in a vertical manner. So we look at the first character for all the strings. At position 0, we have F. So all the character matches for all the three. Hence, we move on to the next character. The next character is L. Again, we've got a match for all the three strings. So we move on to the next character. Now, O does not match with the last one, which is an I in flight. So we would return the prefix up to the mismatch. So you've got your first mismatch at position 2, so your common prefix will be Fn. Again, in terms of complexity. Your best case scenario would give you complexity of n into minimum length, where minimum length is the length of the shortest string. The worst case, if all the strings are the same, then your complexity would be O of S. That's the total number of characters. And the space complexity would be O of 1. And let us dive into the implementation. If verb strings return an empty string, shortest is equal to minimal of string. We said the key is length. Form way, and I can enumerate shortest for S in strings if S of I is not equal to chars. You return shortest to that character. And then we finally return shortest. And that's your test cases passed. Let's submit. And that's quite an efficient solution with 0 milliseconds. That's it for now. See you on the next one. Thank you.